This is part two of 4 or 5. I've yet to decide because there are so many Flash villains up from the show. So, starting off this video, we're going to be talking about Cicada, a villain that I absolutely hated. I apologize to anyone who loves Cicada. I disliked him without skipping a beat. Every single second the character was on screen, I hated him. I thought the fact that he could fly was just a plot convenient excuse for him to get away all the time. I thought the fact that his whole thing with metahuman powers wasn't utilized as much as it could have been, or was utilized at points that didn't really make much sense for it to be used. I thought the whole just reasoning for him to be a villain made no sense. I thought his anger for metahumans was very hypocritical of him, considering the fact that he himself is using metahuman abilities to kill other metahumans. I mean, I know that he himself is technically not a metahuman, but he's using a metahuman technology or meta-technology to kill other people with powers. So isn't that hypocritical of him to do that? However, I will admit, I think his death was at least kind of interesting, that he kind of stepped up saying, no, I was wrong, and then he got killed. I like that. It's ironic that my favorite part of the character was when he died. Personally, I just really dislike Cicada. I thought he was introduced way too early on in the season. Then they swapped him out with his niece, who was even worse than him. I just really disliked the first Cicada. I'll talk about the second one maybe in another video, but the first one, for sure, I absolutely hated. On to a more positive note, and that is Ragdoll. I really like Ragdoll. I thought his powers were so cool and creepy. I thought the acting was great. I love the snapping sound he made when he moved around. Yes, his story and origin and motivation wasn't really much. It was a little bit, it was slightly there in his first appearance, and it was like referenced a couple times in his other appearances. But that's not what made him cool. I thought his entire getup, his whole power set, his fights against the Flash, XS, everybody was so interesting in my opinion. I think the villain also comes across super competent for a Freak of a Week villain, because so many of the Freak of a Week villains I think are, especially in the later seasons, aren't necessarily that much of a threat. Ragdoll I thought was a threat. He really came across scary, and he came across as someone that really could do what he's implying he would do. He did deliver somewhat. The only reason why Flash survived was because Iris jumped off the building herself. So he really did come close to killing Barry. I personally just loved Ragdoll, and I really hope he appears next season in the final season of the show, because if he doesn't, I would be a bit disappointed. Amunet Black. Personally, I didn't dislike Amunet Black as much as a lot of other people. I do agree she can be annoying at points, but for the most part, I did like the character. I liked the character's powers, and I liked the idea that the character had a bit of a rough history of Killer Frost that is somewhat good and somewhat not. In that she actually kind of respected her, and I kind of saw her maybe as a mother figure for Killer Frost, perhaps? Maybe I'm stretching there, but I kind of read that. Personally, I really liked Amunet and Killer Frost's relationship, so I think that's a big reason why I like Amunet. But outside of the relationship, I thought the character overall wasn't necessarily the best. So when she returned in Season 6, I was a little disappointed that she had no scenes with Killer Frost, because I thought that is probably the best part of the character is her scenes with Killer Frost, and making her go with Goldface, which I know is from the comics, didn't really work for me. But I did like the end when they got back together, because I thought that was really funny. And I did like the concept of the gang war, but their banter I thought was too far into the whole like marriage coupling. I understand that it was going to be a joke and it was intended to be that way, and I understand that, but it just didn't really land for me. However, I do think the character overall is an okay character. Not great, not awful, like a lot of other people like to say. But the concept of the character is actually pretty interesting, with the idea of her being a metahuman gang lord. I like that, but there's not really ever been anything really done with that, except for a couple of episodes involving Killer Frost. Weather Witch, which I think is, in my opinion, a pretty good villain. I know a lot of people really dislike her because she kind of replaces Weather Wizard on the show, but I can understand why the show did that, is because he actually replaced Weather Wizard, didn't really want to return. So instead, they swapped him out with Weather Witch, his daughter, who is a character from the comics, by the way, but not his daughter. Personally, I'm okay with that because, like I said, I understand the whole behind-the-scenes situation. Now they really wanted to use Weather Wizard still because he's such a big Flash villain, but they can't, so they brought in Weather Witch, which I think is an okay substitute. And I think she makes an okay Freak of a Week villain, like Ragdoll. She comes across as an actual threat, and I think the character is better than just average Freak of the Week characters. So if the character returns later on in next season, I personally would be okay with that. I'm not dying for it to appear again like Ragdoll, but I'm okay if she does. I would say she's one of the better later season Freak of the Week type characters because she does have more of a motivation that makes sense to me. And I think the character's abilities also come across more threatening than some others, like, I don't know, like Gridlock. I think Gridlock really came across threatening at all. So, in my opinion, she's a pretty okay character. Bloodwork. I really, really like Bloodwork. I thought he was a great villain. I thought the CGI on him was pretty impressive for a TV show budget, and I thought the actor who played him was very, very good in the role. As I think he made the character come across genuinely scary, but also kind of empathetic at the same time. You felt bad for the guy because of his mom and that he's dying himself, but you also saw that he was an actual villain. He was killing people. So, of course, he had to be stopped. And I like that he was kind of like a dark Barry Allen, in the sense that he was kind of like a mirror version of him. Similar to the fact that like Reverse Flash is, but Reverse Flash is a dark Flash. I think Bloodwork is a dark Barry Allen rather than Flash, because both of them, I think, have some interesting, like, not necessarily chemistry, but like friendship vibes going on when they were meeting. But it also came across like perhaps they were kind of similar in personality. But he went down a darker path while Barry Allen stayed Barry Allen. And Gorilla Grodd. I really, really like the show's version of Gorilla Grodd. I thought the character and overall was very interesting, this whole thing of Reverse Flash. I also thought he was very, very scary when he was in the tunnels in season 1. I just really like Grodd. I really thought he wasn't a main villain of a season, but I understand that is probably because of CGI. As Gorilla Grodd is probably an extremely expensive character to have in an episode, and to have him as the main villain of a season would be, in my opinion, probably ridiculous. So I understand that he can't be a main villain of a season, but I feel as if the show had a bigger budget, probably would, due to the fact that Gorilla Grodd is such a big Flash villain. But what we got of him, I thought was very interesting, and I really like the idea that he also had a soft spot for Caitlin Snow, and I like that he kind of grew as a character and moved on past his vendetta against the Flash himself. I thought it really showed growth in the character. Of course, he's still a villain-ish, but I understand that the character overall is more or less on a gooder scale. Like, he's really in the gray area of black and white, because I think he comes across, I wouldn't say he's a hero anymore, I wouldn't say he's redeemed, but he's willing to help Team Flash when it comes down to their whole issues, but something tells me he's not done as a villain. Or at least it's my own opinion. Of course, everyone always has their own opinions. We won't know until the next season comes out. But I don't think Grodd's done as a villain yet. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.